Harris was in Detroit. She delivered a big speech surrounded by union leaders and tried to contrast her and the Biden administration record with Donald Trump and hit the former president over his policies.
So intends to pull us back, including back to a time before workers had the freedom to organize. He appointed union busters to the National Labor Relations Board. So-called right-to-work laws. We fight for a future where every worker has the freedom to organize.
And one union member spoke about Project 2025 and its effect on union workers.
Trump said he was going to protect our jobs and then lost nearly 300,000 jobs on his watch. With the Project 2025 agenda, it will give him power to go after the right to organize, and it will try to dismantle our unions and then make life even more expensive for us.
The race is also kicking into gear. We know the general election traditionally starts after Labor Day. This year, quite different with a more recent nominee in Kamala Harris. But total it all up, and you have just 9 weeks to the actual election day. Early voting begins in some states as soon as September 20th. That's Minnesota and Virginia, 10 days after that first Trump debate. So you can see everything coming down the pike. There are signs that Trump is also still struggling to adjust to his new opponent, and he's on defense over several issues. As the Post puts it, with little chance of improving his standing, quote, Trump's advisors see the only option is damaging hers. The bulk of TV spending by the campaigns and their allies were attacks on Harris. So it is a busy Labor Day start to the general election. Biden and Harris coming out moments away. We'll bring you that. But we are joined now by Vanity Fair's Molly Jong-Fast and Professor of Politics and Journalism at Morgan State U, Jason Johnson. Welcome to both of you. Jason, what do you see on this Labor Day?
What I see is the Democrats laboring across the country. You have, obviously, Harris and Joe Biden are campaigning together. You have Tim Walz and his wife are in Minnesota and Wisconsin. You have Doug Emhoff down in Virginia. But for some reason, Donald Trump and J.D. Vance have no scheduled events on Labor Day. I guess they're taking time off. But it seems like two campaigns going in very different directions on a key weekend that, at least in political science terms, is the real beginning of the campaign.
Yeah. And Molly, we've heard a lot about interviews. It is a tradition to have a sort of joint interview with the running mate, and the Harris-Walz campaign, their ticket just did that heading into this weekend. Some people may have heard about it. It was with Dana Bash on CNN. Some may not have caught the whole thing. We're just going to play one part of it here, relatively new, where Harris again hits this key theme about wanting to turn the page from Trump.
We have had in the former president someone who has really been pushing an agenda and an environment that is about diminishing the character and the strength of who we are as Americans. I think people are ready to turn the page on that.
Molly, your thoughts, A, on sort of the really down the middle kind of, I don't want to say centrist, but sort of traditional campaigning messaging she was doing in that interview, number one. And number two, what we've learned since then is that it, on the channel that it aired, a competitor, full disclosure, whatever, fine, they had absolutely huge interest in the interview, which I mentioned as a political fact. Right. They had more than quadrupled what would be the typical audience there. About 6 million people, which means just like we saw at the DNC, there seems to be an awareness when she and Walz do things, people are checking it out at the very least. Whether they vote for them, we don't know yet.
Yeah, I mean, this is a really interesting thing about Harris. She doesn't need to just run as anti-Trump. People are interested in her as her. And you see that from the money she's raised, from the volunteers, from the sort of army of people who are, you know, voter registration numbers are crazy. That these are proof that she's actually popular as herself. And so what she's doing, which I think is very smart, is she's sticking to policy. For example, what we're seeing with Labor Day, right? Donald Trump has never been a labor president, and many parts of the Republican Party have really organized against labor, like thinking of right-to-work laws. So you really do have a Democrat, you know, Democrats really can run on labor and run on unions and support for unions. And you'll remember Biden actually marched with a union. So this is a good way to sort of show not only to be anti-Trump, but to show what Harris can do.
Jason?
Yeah, I mean, I've always thought that the importance of that interview, to be perfectly candid, was more for the Acela Corridor media elite than what actual voters care about. Because as Molly said, the voters are hearing what they want to hear from Harris. Because every time she and Tim Walz are on the air, the ratings skyrocket. They're filling up stadiums. And that's not just about ego. That's about men and women, young people, old people, all races, all colors and creeds saying, hey, I am interested. And once somebody's interested, selling them on your policy is much, much easier. I think what's going to be interesting going forward is, well, what happens when Harris does, say, a press conference with a bunch of random questions? I know she'll be fine, obviously, because she's been sitting vice president of the United States. But as she moves from the sort of insurgent new candidate into the traditional candidate over the last 8 to 9 weeks, it's going to be very interesting to see how that may change how specific her policies and how specific her policy presentations get, even as they're still building up rallies, registering voters, and quite frankly, recently expanding the electoral map that they think they can win with.
Yeah, and we both of you mentioned sort of the context of Labor Day, which is a day off for many Americans, not a day off for politics or the news, and the Trump-Walz ticket sort of taking a back seat. Harris not only campaigning, but going out with President Biden. It's also a fitting day to look at what Donald Trump has said recently when he's talking to his sort of billionaire allies, because him and Musk got themselves sort of in trouble on their conversation recently in talking about labor crackdowns. Take a listen.
I mean, I look at what you do. You walk in and you just say, you want to quit? They go on strike. I won't mention the name of the company, but they go on strike and you say, that's okay, you're all gone. You're all gone. So every one of you is gone.
Jason, that's actually a kind of textbook violation. There's already been a complaint filed about it. Of course, whether you can hold a company responsible for a politician's sort of unhelpful banter, if you want to call it that, it remains to be seen. But I thought it was a fitting piece of sound here for Labor Day. What do you see there in that contrast, Jason?
I mean, there is no greater contrast. There is no greater water and oil than a guy who came to prominence over the last 10 to 15 years by firing people, right? Like Labor Day is supposed to be the day where we talk about labor getting together and organizing against corporate forces in order to give regular people more rights. The man became famous saying, I don't care how good you did. If I have some particular peak of the day, I can get rid of you. And bragging about it and laughing about it was someone who quite arguably, for all the companies that he has run, the most famous acquisition he has of recently, there's not a person alive, not a tech reporter alive who will say that he has run this company better. I think that shows how out of touch Donald Trump is. Maybe this was okay. He was never the popular vote winner. Maybe this was okay to have this kind of brash, obnoxious, anti-worker attitude in 2016. It's not where Americans are now. It's not where post-COVID Americans are now. And it just shows that he doesn't really know how to connect with people. Maybe that works with Elon Musk. It's not going to work with somebody in the middle of Michigan.
And Molly, we have in the corner of the screen the preview shot. We've seen Biden and Harris arrive there. They haven't, of course, yet taken the stage. We're going to bring people this live Labor Day rally. But I'm curious if you want to reflect on the politics of them rejoining. On the one hand, by all accounts, they have Biden and Harris a great governing relationship, and she navigated the difficult period for the administration when there was the question about whether he would stay in the race or not. She navigated it, with great aplomb. But politically, you can't avoid the fact that the whole reason she's the nominee is that many people in the Democratic Party decided Biden was not anymore the best possible choice for the future, which is not to say that there wasn't a lot of thank you, Joe signs at the DNC or that there are states where you can be helpful. So I'm curious what you see here in what is fundamentally a political dance they're doing as they come out today and campaign in certain places where it's helpful while she still tries to strike her own identity.
Yeah, I mean, look, we have seen before presidents not endorse their vice presidents at great peril, right? We've seen that happen and the candidates have lost. And what I think Biden did, which was really excellent, was there was this 3-week period where he was sort of came to his own decision, and then he was able to fully endorse her. And even, when you would talk to people at the campaign, they would say, he says, if you want to honor me, make her win. And that is a really great message. Because remember, he didn't step down because he wasn't a good governor. I mean, he was good at governing, but he's the oldest person to have ever run for president, right? He's 81 years old, and he couldn't do the campaign. And by the way, now Republicans have run on age and mental acuity. Well, now they're running the oldest person to ever run for president, which I think is pretty interesting.